Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
It is a Dean and John special.
Yes, we need one of these.
We do. Like, it's been a while since you and I have had a chance to riff about something.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to
done
talk about...
talking to other people.
Yeah, it's it. It's just us from now on. Sorry, folks. Our numbers... Everybody's hitting that unsubscribe button. Don't. I promise.
Don't do that.
I promise. We still have more guests coming, but
That's
we're
right.
filling in with us today. And we're going to talk about being a good partner.
Mm-hmm.
Not, like marriage or relationship stuff.
No, right.
I mean,
no.
our wives would probably say neither one of us has any qualifications
No,
to talk
exactly.
about that. So,
Yeah. We're talking channel partners today.
we
right?
are talking, yes, about
How
channel
are
partners.
you going to be a good channel partner? I think at least that's what I've prepped for.
Exactly. I mean, hey, we might go off the rails. Who knows what we'll talk about? When
There
it's
you go.
just us, who knows where things go? Yes, so we are going to be talking about, in relation to an article that is coming soon from BlueStar. I'll tell you more about that in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But we have some tips on how to be a good partner in the channel. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that's relevant for VARs, something that's relevant for software companies, even our vendors, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
This is a channel where we know we have a lot of different types of people, different types of organizations, and we all kind of work together towards common goals, but we all got to make sure we fit well together, too.
100%. And we also realize that in order to survive in this day and age, you got to have an ecosystem.
That's
so
right.
how can you have an ecosystem if you're not a good partner in that ecosystem? I don't care who you are. So
Exactly.
timely that we're talking about this one.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting with us. It is time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, so Dean, let's talk about this idea of being a good channel partner.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the impetus for this idea is we have a new newsletter that's coming soon.
Yep.
Actually, by the time this episode airs, it may already be out there in the world. So
Absolutely.
it's called TEConnect Today.
Yes.
It's going to be our new newsletter about all things happening in the channel, software companies, VARs, vendors, just what's happening in our world, this ecosystem as you refer to it. Some case studies, some interviews, some tips and tricks, some recommendations.
Yep.
We
got a couple good content partners. We've got Mike Monticello and Jay McCall, the guys over at Dev Pro Journal and Zaz Journal. Are helping us out with some of the content, so we got a great partner there too. Really good information to your point, to help people understand. So we're talking software vendors, we're talking resellers, how they can grow their business within that ecosystem.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you are interested in this and want to subscribe, if you're not already subscribed, if you are a BlueStar subscriber to our newsletter, you'll get this new newsletter as it comes out anyway.
100%. Yep.
But if you're not already, go to BlueStarInc.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a little section and like the little icons of all the stuff that we do. There's one of them called newsletter. I think it's the last icon in that section. Click on there, give us your email, sign up, and you will start getting that newsletter as it comes out. But today we're going to kind of do a little bit of a sneak preview of one of the articles that is in our first newsletter, which is this idea of how to be a good channel partner. We've kind of put together a little checklist of some of our tips and recommendations on how to be a good partner within the channel. Again, some of it may sound like it's a little bit towards maybe the software side, but I also feel like this is something, there's no reason you can't read this and find some value for your company, regardless of what
I would agree with that.
the content says.
Yeah, I would agree
for
with
our
that.
VAR partners, there's definitely a lot for you to get out of this too, because it's kind of evergreen advice for, I think, anybody in this particular channel or in the business world in general of how to partner up with another company.
Yep.
So, Dean, I'm going to start off I guess we'll kind of maybe punt these back and forth here and kind of expand on them a little bit. So, tip number one is, are they suited to the role? What does that mean to you?
I mean, so if I'm a software developer and I'm looking at a potential reseller champion or somebody that I'm going to start partnering with, you got to make sure that they're suited for the role, in the sense that you can go a couple of different ways. If you ask me here, John, do they have the internal resources to kind of mirror up to what you would expect? Here's what I mean by that. A lot of resellers, some of them have programming capabilities on staff where they can work with the API and really kind of connect it to the solutions that they're used to installing, if you will. Some don't. Some really rely on other people, or they just don't even get into that game. So there's one angle there. Are they suited for the role? Meaning, if I'm a software company, I have a little bit of an API, or maybe there's an SDK, yes, but it's still going to need some customization. I got to make sure that the resellers that I'm getting in bed with have some capability to do that. So are they suited? So structurally, are they suited for it? We're going to get to this a little bit later, but does the company mirror and match up with your overall philosophy, your DNA, stuff like that? I think that's pretty important as well. So those are a couple of them. And then finally, I guess really big on my list, if they're suited for you, is do they have sales, the type of sales organization that you're looking for? Because let's face it, at the end of the road, what this partnership is, yes, it's maybe solution based, but it's also sales based in the sense that you're going to want to have a good partner out there that's going to have meaningful representation on the sales front and competent people that are going to be able to go out there and help you in that role.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I think of here is I think of both sides of it, and I think of having this checklist, or having this idea of what you expect out of a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think of this in a lot of situations where, I don't know, whether you're from buying a new car to a house, or, just whatever thing you're planning for, and that you've got to make some decisions between potentially several different choices, to have this like list of things that you want. And maybe it's a list of, hey, these are the things we have to have.
Mm-hmm.
Our partner has to be able to be tech savvy, software savvy, and be prepared to work in our ecosystem and speak on our behalf, whether we're there or not. Or maybe it's someone who is willing to hand that piece off to you, and because you want to have that particular piece to yourself, because you're the
That's
expert.
a really good point.
And you don't want to have to fight it out over who gets to pitch this particular product or software or whatever.
Yep.
So maybe you have that list of like, hey, this is the stuff we have to have. Here's stuff we'd like to have.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be, but we would like to.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the things that are not really as important. If we got them, great. If not, not a big deal.
So yeah, you're advocating coming up with your own little checklist about how here's what it takes to suit with us. Here's what we're looking for.
Right. And that's good. Even before I think you even get into the idea of finding out who your partner is and whether they are a good fit or not, is understanding like, hey, there's certain things that just we have to have. And if you don't meet those particular things, then we're going to go ahead and shift our business away.
Yeah. And when I put my reseller hat back on back in the day, we definitely had that, because when we started vetting, for example, digital signage software back in the day, we had a checklist. We had certain things that we were looking for to enable what we were trying to get out of the partnership and how we were trying to grow our business. So it's a quick mental exercise, but I agree it's important to have that exercise, because without it, you don't really have guidance. And it's okay to pivot off of some of those points. Maybe you go into it saying, we're looking for this particular feature in a software or something like that, and we feel like it's, maybe it's not top of the list, but it's middle of the list. Maybe that goes away because it's just we're not finding anybody with that. Yeah. Or we have to pivot our thought a little bit on how really important was that feature or functionality in that piece of software.
Definitely. All right, well then let's go to tip number 2. Are they capable of expanding your reach? And I'll start off on this one. That's fairly, self-explanatory, I think, this idea of, hey, am I going to work with someone? And again, I'll start off here talking about maybe the software side of things, looking for a VAR partner.
Mm-hmm.
They might be looking to you to think, hey, we are a small partner. We know we have great software, but we don't have a massive sales team. We don't have the reach or the impact, or, we don't have people all across the country or throughout an entire region. So, they might be thinking to themselves, hey, I want a partner that helps us get further. Like, we are fantastic at what we're doing in the Seattle, Washington area. Mm-hmm. We've mastered most of the Pacific Northwest. We have a good reach there, but we really would love to expand down into California. Mm-hmm. So we want a partner that is, well suited to that area, has a strong foothold there, has strong partnerships and relationships with, our potential customer base down there. So obviously, is there that, that reach? What else do you think of when you think of expanding your reach?
Well, one of the things I guess I would throw on the table, like if in that realm, when you are expanding, is considering the partners that you're going at, what's in their Rolodex. So I guess would be a way to think about it. Do they already have accounts with some of your target end users or some of your target prospects? sometimes and that might be hard to navigate or hard to find out initially, but you should put that on your checklist as things that we're going to be asking really early on as a part of this dance, right? And it's a dance when you start developing partnerships. You've got things on your table, side of the table, they've got things on their side of the table, and it's a little bit of a dance to figure out if this is going to work. Well, one of them should be, do they have accounts already that you're seeking to get into, or that you maybe not necessarily even get into, but they are the type of accounts that you're trying to go after. So they've got some experience in that realm. So that's definitely something to consider. But when you think about expanding your reach, you really also have to start coming up with a game plan as it relates to regionality or where you think that scope is going to go. I'll take your use case that you just had there. So yeah, I'm in Seattle, our company's in Seattle. We want to branch down into California. That might be a very reasonable, expansion of your, maybe it's bigger than that. What is the plan there? Because I think that as you develop partners, you got to have an answer for that, because at least the smart ones would be asking that. Again, when I put my reseller hat on, and we would start vetting software, not just for digital signage, but other things as well, we would have that scope in our mind. How big is this company? Where do they play? Are they too big for us? A lot of resellers will look at it and say, you know what, those guys are a little bit too big. They're not matching, what we're trying to do, because they're this behemoth and we're looking for something a little bit different. So, but anyway, back to the software side, yes, when you think about expanding reach and things like that, consider the regionality, consider the partners, who they play with, and see how well that fits in.
Yeah. And, I think also that means on the VAR side of things is being upfront about that. If you are having this conversation and if your regional reach is only within a certain area, certain states, but like, hey, listen, we have California mastered. We are experts here in California. We have a little bit of play in Nevada. We might get up into Oregon a little bit, but anything related to California, that's our world. We don't want to pretend like we're going to get any further for you or expand you any further. But if that's your goal right now, we are the ones that you definitely want to work with. And and maybe that means in the future they expand out to another partner that helps them get elsewhere. But maybe right now, like just be honest up front and help them understand. Like, look, we're not going to try to sell you on being able to overreach our particular boundaries right now, but we will help you with what your current goal is, if that goal is, let's say, getting into California.
Absolutely. And a little bit more there, because when you start vetting resellers that you're considering working with, you also want to kind of probe a little bit on the types of solutions and the other software partners that they have. I've definitely seen instances where you all have a reseller that is, I'll call them a Johnny-come-lately, in the sense that, they'll take on software development companies, and really they're kind of just after their own needs, kind of suiting their own, business objectives. And what they're trying to get out of is just quick hits. Hey, maybe there's some low-hanging fruit. So if we onboard this software, or we start partnering up with them, we'll get the low-hanging fruit and then move on to the next one, type of a thing. So the caution there is, ask them what kind of solutions, what other software partners do they have? Is the reseller spreading themselves too thin on what they can dedicate towards your desire to expand?
Right.
Even if it's just a nominal expansion into another state or region or something like that, you could still stumble across resellers that they're already kind of spread thin with what they're trying to do today. And then though they might be courting you, they might not really have the ability to expand the proper way that you're looking to do that. So, what we have seen some success is when you have, a hungry company out there that is definitely in line with your thinking and how you're trying to expand. They're needing your solution. They think it's a great fit for the customer base that they have. That hunger can be a good item as well, right? They're like really getting all into your solution and how they're going to take it to market and stuff like that. Those are the types of people that, if you ask me, are the ones that are capable of expanding your reach, because they're going to run. They're going to run, and they're going to help you run.
Yep. And I also think about, we talk a lot about niche and about getting niche-y within a certain type of industry or vertical or field. And we especially preach that a lot, I think, when it comes to our software partners. We do it a lot in our marketing and our content marketing in particular, where, we believe in this idea like, hey, know who your audience is and go after that audience. Go after their particular strengths and challenges
speak
and
to 'em.
needs. Yeah, exactly.
right.
So I think that can kind of go to the same way. And I think if I'm thinking about this even from the VAR side of things, and I'm putting the reseller hat on, if I'm looking for a software partner, I might be thinking, hey, I know I want to get into this particular industry. I know there's business there. There's a need there. Let's say it's, I don't know, a very specific type of retail, hardware stores. Let's just give an example there. So maybe you're thinking like, I know I have some solutions that are perfect for needs for hardware stores. I don't know what that might be, but maybe there's something about hardware stores, that there's a type of technology they need that is a little bit different than what maybe other retailers might need. So you're probably looking for a software partner that also speaks to that world and understands that world. And I think sometimes you might come across maybe a POS provider or someone who does inventory software that maybe they'll say like, well, we don't really play in hardware, but we could probably figure it out.
Right.
That would, to me, be a red flag. I'd say like, well, we'll come back and talk to you about that, or maybe do some work on that and come back and tell us if you can do it. But instead, go find, hey, maybe there's a software partner that their entire business is focused on hardware POS, or a very narrow vertical of retailers, specialty retailers that hardware happens to be among them. And maybe then you say, all right, that's the partner I want, because they've already put the time and investment into creating a point of sale software or an inventory management software that speaks specifically to that kind of retailer. And that's someone you want in your back pocket, because it just lends credibility to you when you go out and meet with that customer to say, hey, I'm not just going to shove any old POS system or any old inventory management system your way. And
it's purpose built. It's
exactly
for this. Yeah.
It's called hardware POS or something like that. That's probably out there somewhere.
Well, let's keep going down that path a little bit, because as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, now I've got my reseller hat back on, and the inverse is true too. So if you're a reseller that you're looking to expand your business, right? Expand your reach, maybe not physical reach, but your reach as far as solutions that you have. You definitely need to be cognizant of the software partners that you're trying to align with, in the fact of how they will now reciprocate your desire to expand. And one of the critical pieces of information that you need to know, like early on, is if opportunities come in through the software company, because this is a critical piece. How is that going to be served to you? Does the software company take in, because a lot of software companies, they're doing their own lead gen, right? They're out there, they're doing Google ads, or there's word of mouth, they're attending shows, all kinds of stuff like that. Let's run with your example of hardware POS. Or maybe it's a hardware kiosk, and you want to you want to niche down to hardware stores, and you want to become like the expert on installing kiosks right at the door that help people navigate neighborhood hardware stores. Great. If you start getting into bed with a software company, how are they going to feed you opportunities as well? Because look, you're bringing stuff to the table as a reseller. You know everybody in your 50-mile radius, all the hardware stores. You already have refined your list. I know who I'm going to go target. Here's my list of 50 people that I'm going to go out and see. So you're bringing stuff to the table for them. How are they reciprocating to you? And sometimes it can get a little gummy there. And I think we'll get into this a little bit more, but like if software companies, they have to be really cognizant of that fact. How do they distribute opportunities equitably? Do they need to come up with a tiering system? Because you can hurt some egos, you can hurt some relationships, that if the expectation is different, if it's John and Dean's hardware kiosk shop, and we get into bed with XYZ software company, and man, this is a great partnership, and we're developing business, and look at this, together we're doing great things, and then we hear through the grapevine that they handed off an opportunity for whatever Ace Hardware stores to another person in our territory. It's like, dude, what's going on here? So you need to be cognizant of that. I mean, sometimes there's a lot of gray there, but anyway, going back to the reseller, ask the software company, how do you distribute leads back? How does this look for me, and those types of things. So, for those that are looking to expand the reach, it was an interesting little angle that I thought it was you were talking.
Well, and I think that actually we kind of covered a little bit of tip number 3 here, which is their industry expertise and understanding.
right.
You know, do you specialize in your industry? Do you have an industry specialty? And again, this is one of those things that can go both ways. I would say more often than not, the software partner probably has an industry expertise, especially, you know, a lot of the startups, you know, and the folks that maybe aren't as, you know, entrenched in the industry for as long. They probably have picked a niche or two that is very specific to them, and that's what they go after. And they obviously want a partner that understands that niche too. But it goes the opposite way too, where, you know, you as a VAR, you know, might be thinking to yourself like, hey, my expertise is in healthcare, you know, so I want to work with partners that understand the world of healthcare because it's a different animal than retail. It's a different animal than warehousing. It's a different animal than any other type of industry. And your partner has to be someone that understands that particular industry too, because if you know how to go in and approach a certain way, you know what kind of decision makers you're supposed to be going after, you know what a sales cycle looks like, you know what's expected of you when you walk in the door and how long it's going to take to get an opportunity. But your partner has no clue about that because they've worked a completely different industry and they think you just go in guns blazing with a great presentation and demo and they're going to get the business same day and realize like, no, that's not how it actually works for this particular industry. Yeah, it's not going to mesh. That's going to clash pretty badly.
Fair. So the tip number 3 is industry experts. And you know that's true, John. The shortest putt for a software development company is to find those resellers that play in the niche that they're going after, right? Whatever it may be. Maybe it's healthcare. We'll run with that, or we'll go back to our hardware example. You know, those VARs, the resellers that play in that. That is definitely the shortest putt, and I would advocate that those types of resellers should be at the top of the list. You know, as you're considering your rollout or your expansion, or as you develop your channel play, I think that makes a lot of sense. However, I will put a little asterisk next to it because what I love about the channel in general, and I came from a company that was this way, there are some diamonds in the rough that maybe, you know, you've got resellers out there that are looking to expand their business. They might not be in the vertical or the niche that you're thinking about playing, and maybe they don't suit that role exactly what you're looking for. But if I was a software development company that came across a reseller who doesn't play in my world today, but can show a history of being aggressive in learning, adopting, developing, and it's in their DNA to do that, I'd be really tempted to say, you know what, let's go down this path, because a nice hungry company that's willing to, you know, go the extra mile and stuff like that, you can find a lot of gold with partners like that. Whereas, you know, on the inverse is true. You might find a reseller that's in your niche, got a lot of history back there, got a great resume, right? Oh, well, yeah, we've been playing in hardware for 25 years, and you get just that. It's the old stodgy guy that's been in the industry for a long time and not really motivated to, you know, they
don't need this fancy new software of yours. They've been doing it this way forever. They're not going to change anything.
Well, you sent me the lead. What happened to it? Oh, well, I sent them a letter.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm waiting for them to respond. Whereas the new reseller who maybe doesn't know you, think, oh yeah, I'm all over this, like whatever. And you know, I'm hitting them up on LinkedIn. So,
well, it goes back to what you mentioned it early on here in this conversation, this idea of being passionate and excited about your product.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're meeting with a potential new partner and you're showing them off your wares and, you know, and how you do business and what your particular new cool product and technology is, if they're excited about it, even if they're not someone that normally does play in the industry, if thinking like, man, that's pretty cool. I'd love to do that. Let's talk about that. And they're asking you a bunch of questions. They want to understand more about it. They want to get in and play with it. They want to, go out with you and like, hey, let's go find someone to talk to about this about. I'd love to like sit in with you while you have a conversation with somebody in this particular world and understand what those conversations are like. That's a good sign. That's a sign of this is somebody like, is suddenly thinking to themselves like, hey, this may not be a world we play in, but I love these guys. I love what they have to offer. I'm happy to go play in that world if I've got this particular software or hardware company backing me up. to work together.
Absolutely. Now, you might need to do a little bit more vetting,
Right.
but in my experience, most software companies that are looking to expand, looking to get in the channel, they're predisposed at kind of an aggressive stance in wanting to do whatever it takes to grow, right? If they've got a little VC behind them or something like that, even more so, right? Now they're tasked with whatever their metrics are that they need to grow by, whether it's people, subscriptions, revenue, whatever it is, they are all tuned into that and they're going to run aggressively. And sometimes it's better to match a reseller that's of the same ilk. Maybe their metrics are going to be different, but if they're super aggressive as well and you match up that way, a lot of good things might happen. Now, the only caveat there I would say is just watch out for the fast talkers. There are resellers out there, I'm sure, that are fast talkers, again, that are just looking for that low-hanging fruit. Yep. Oh, yeah, we can bring this on board. We got the skill set to do that. And you're going to send me leads, right? And we'll facilitate that for them. But there's not a lot of reciprocal stuff. And
again, that goes both ways.
Oh, it totally does.
There's plenty of times you as a VAR might meet a software partner that talks a great game and tells you like, hey, we've got the perfect software for this industry. We've figured it all out. And in reality, they've got an idea. Like maybe they've created something that works fine over here. They've never even remotely thought about trying it over here, but they look at it and go, man, we could probably figure that out.
That's a really good point. No, I think you're really touching on one. What I was also thinking is that, because unfortunately this has happened to me before, you develop a relationship with a software company, I being the reseller, and you think it's going to be great, right? And the onboarding process you think is going to go really well. So you sign the dotted line. Yeah, let's start this. We're going to start repping your stuff or whatever. You have some of those initial calls, and already you start to see some cracks in the in the armor there. In sense, like maybe you call out for support. Hey, can we set up a meeting? Because whatever, I want our programmers to start getting a little bit more knowledgeable about your API. And the response is, oh yeah, we have a learning center. Just go here. Here's a link for you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, wait a minute. Let's try again. I want to
I need somebody to work with.
Right. Oh yeah, we got that over here. It's and so maybe you haven't they're not syncing up quite the way you were hoping to there. But that's really interesting, boy. But anyway, getting back to the original point here, the industry expert. I think it's important for software companies, at least if they're really early on, look for those folks that do have some experience. It's a lot shorter putt to find a reseller that's either in your niche or very close to your niche, and there's not a lot of lifting, in regards to that.
Ideally, they should be someone that does look at your product and sees the value immediately,
right? Because
they understand that industry, they understand where the pain points already are, and they look at what you have to offer and say, "That's it. That's something cool. I know exactly." They probably, ideally, have 2 or 3 customers in their head that already shut around. They're like, oh, I know who I would show this to. I would show this to XYZ because I know that they have been looking for something like this, and we haven't been able to really do anything for them.
Yep.
So that would be an ideal partner.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So tip number 4 we have on here: are they successful?
Yep.
And this one again seems kind of straightforward, but it also, I think, can be the scariest and heaviest lift potentially about developing a partnership, because it might require you to ask some uncomfortable questions.
Oh, I see where you're going.
This idea of like lifting the hood and saying, hey, I need to understand more about your business.
Yes.
I need you to tell me maybe some of the stuff that you wouldn't normally just talk about yourself in any old other pitch to a customer or a partner. It does not hurt to ask those questions and understand, like, hey, what has your business been like? Can you share with me like revenues? Can you share with me growth? Can you share with me, what's been going on in your world and with your business over the last 2, 3, 5, 10 years? The stuff that maybe you're worried people don't want to talk about and don't want to share. But I also feel like at the same time, if they're going to be a good partner and have a good relationship, and it's got to be a both ways kind of trust going on, they shouldn't be too embarrassed about opening up the books and telling you a little bit of information and, hopefully, shouting about themselves and patting themselves on the back like, hey, we're doing fantastic. Let me show you. Here's what we've been doing. Here's been our growth model. Here's some places where we're lagging a little bit, but we think actually bringing you on might help with that. I would hope they'll be a little more inviting about that.
You know, you are really touching on one of those topics that I think is important. Yes, it may lead to some awkward conversations. Right. You might not feel comfortable asking those questions, but your success is dependent upon it. Okay, so the use case I had in my mind as I tee this up in my mind is, you know, the software company who's making the deliberate decision that, yes, they want to expand. They're looking for good channel partners, good resellers, but they know they can only handle 5 to 10, right? So it's a small universe, and they want to go national, or maybe they want to go across all North America. Let's just keep it that the scope for now. But still, they're only looking for 5 to 10 partners out there. When you're looking for that small of a group and your business is incumbent upon it, you got to ask some of those awkward questions. You know,
you want to be sure.
Absolutely. I would get to know, what's your sales team like? You know, can I meet some of those folks? You know, what's their disposition? How are they compensated? How aggressive are they? You know, what do they get? How much do they get involved in that? Look at their operations. Ask the questions about their operations. Right. You know, is this a reseller that if they didn't have that one big contract, they wouldn't be around right now? You got to ask that question. You know, who are your customers out there? What does your 80-20 look like? You know, is it all coming from one customer? Again, because you'll find a lot of resellers out there that they're trying to expand their business. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just, this is information you got to know as a developer who's looking to make a channel play. You know, does the reseller, if that one deal goes away, oh my gosh, they're folding up. You know, they're not.
Suddenly your partner no longer exists.
Suddenly their partner no longer exists. So, you know, is their operations, you know, do they have enough spread out so that they can handle those types of things? What's their track record on customer service? You know, it's okay to ask for references. Look, this is an interview kind of a thing. I mean, this is a partnership. You got to treat it straight up like that. And I know that may sound basic, and you know, you've got a lot of savvy software companies out there that understand how to go in and pitch a bank or pitch some angel investors on the probability, and look at this, look at what we're building here, and look at all this opportunity and charts and graphs and all that kind of good stuff. Sometimes they're not the best people in judging character and relationships, you know, and partnerships that you're going out to do. Again, if you're going to have a channel play, you got to ask some of these questions. And to be honest with you, if I was the reseller and I was getting that in bed with the software company, I don't think I'd be too put off by those questions.
Right.
I might be I might be a little guarded on some of the answers that I'm going to give, or at least not on the first date, you know, kind of a give you that kind of information? But I would want to be, if we're going to get that close together, I would want to get to be that knowledgeable. And we did, by the way. I mean, again, back in a previous life, we got to know their executive team. I was a reseller. We got to know the software's executive team. We visited their location. We matched up. We made sure that but the relationship had developed, you know, a few months, a little bit. Right. And we had a deal or two under our belt, and, you know, that kind of a thing. But man, you know, how successful is that reseller? Are they going to fold tomorrow? You know, what does it look like, you know, under the hood? I like the way you put that, under the hood.
Well, and I think that also fits nicely with tip number 5, because they kind of go hand in hand. Are they a good cultural fit? You know, do they value, what are their values like? What's their business approach? You kind of leaned on that a little bit when you mentioned the idea of like, what's their sales process? How are they compensated? You know, another way I think about this sometimes too is, and this is the kind of stuff where maybe you don't necessarily get them to crack the code and tell you what's going on, because let's be honest, sometimes executives may not know what actually their people in their company think. But guess what? There are resources to do that. Glassdoor is one example of that.
Good point.
It's a great place where employees of companies can be very frank about the companies they work for sometimes. Now, again, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because you're going to get in there and there might be a couple of reviews like, this is the worst company ever.
They didn't have salt and pepper in the break room.
Something they didn't like, something rubbed them the wrong way. You don't know what that employee was actually like either, and they're complaining. But if you get in there and 90% of the reviews of the company are unfavorable, and, you know, everybody's got a negative attitude about things, or, you know, or you see the same kind of comment about the direction of the company and the strategy and the culture over and over again, that should all be red flags. You have enough people are saying this, it probably is true.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, you know, I think there's a strong, you know, reason there to understand, like, what is their culture. And again, I think that's where, you know, when you do have to kind of get to know them a little bit, again, it's if you're making the analogy of a real world relationship, someone you're actually planning on dating or marrying or whatever, you got to make sure you have a fit there. And a lot of that is understanding like, hey, is the way I operate and live and exist and my, beliefs and attitudes and cultural fundamentals the same as yours? Do they mesh well with yours? And if not, it's not going to work out well. It's the same thing for a business, because if you're this, this company that has, hey, we are a young, cool company who believes in new ideas and new strategies and taking on new challenges and understanding the world of technology and how everything's changing, and we're not afraid to shift our business model and pivot when we need to. And you're trying to get in bed with a company, it's like, well, we've been doing the same thing for 25 years and it works. It's always worked and we're going to continue working. You probably won't get along.
Right?
So
yeah, really, really good point. So culture is key. I mean, I always feel like if there's not a good marriage there, it's the right word to use here in the sense that, you're going to be living together to a certain degree. Yeah. You're going to be partners. And so you're going to have to deal with one another. And if there's friction there just based on your cultural differences, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And you also have to think of things like, what is their risk appetite? Because sometimes those can be out of sync as well. You might have a software company that, again, their metrics are completely different, or maybe they're very aggressive and they got to respond. They've got a short timeline and they got to get really aggressive to meet their metrics. And so that just by itself is going to have a certain culture to it, right? And if the reseller isn't matching with that and doesn't have the same sense of urgency around what needs to be accomplished and things of that nature, you can really rub the wrong way. So some people's risk appetite might be a little bit different, and that can be financial too. So like, maybe the software development company that has this VC behind them, and they've got some dollars they can burn on some what I'll call science fair projects, or maybe some partners where they're willing to, prospects that they're willing to make them a loss leader. They'll sink dollars into making this work because they see something completely different. Right. That might be out of the sync with a reseller who's a little bit more conservative. They don't have the money to burn that they can allocate, a couple human resources towards a particular project, and
they go nowhere.
And they're just so culturally, they're at a different playing field than the software company might be. So you got to look at that. How risk adverse are they, especially on the financial side? If you think your go-to-market strategy is going to be demos that are going to require, some loss lead, you're going to have to invest either hardware or personnel into getting the deal because you need that marquee deal that's going to set you apart from everybody else, or whatever it may be. You got to make sure that there's a good fit there. And that's, cultural fit might be one way of thinking of it, but there's got to be a good fit there. Yeah. Then also, do you get along with the people? I know that sounds pretty basic, but if your teams aren't getting along, I mean, and really, I think the good advice there is expose your teams to their teams as best you can. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out, but there's nothing wrong with, if you think you found a good partner, you're a software developer, you found a good partner, have some of your executive team, some of your programmers, just have a basic, conversation with the reseller that you're going to bed with, if you will, and get some of their people on the line too, just so you can introduce people, sync up, see how things are going. Yep. We did that quite a few times. And I would go back to our director of programming and say, well, so how are the people on your side of the fence? Were they cool? Do you think you can get along with them? Or, because whatever the feedback was there, I was really interested in that. Your programming team come back and say, you know what, he was a little flighty. I don't know. He was hard for me to reel back in, and I think it's going to be difficult working with them. Or it might have been, dude, we hit it off. They love fly fishing like I do, and he's a great programmer, and so I think we're going to meld really well. I know it sounds so basic, but stuff like that is really, really important.
It can derail a relationship very quickly. Even if, like you said, if it's just one aspect of your business and one aspect of their business, if that aspect of both of your businesses is a critical touch point between the two of you, between your relationship.
Good point.
And they can't get along, and they don't operate the same way or think about things the same way. The whole thing's just going to fall apart. It's not going to matter how well everything else is, works together if the programming people on both sides simply are like, well, listen, there's nothing that works together for us. The way I work and the way they work are two completely different universes. That could be a huge problem.
It could be. So, I mean, we've talked about this before. If you're a software development company, you're developing a channel play, you're looking for good VAR partners out there. Top of the list that we've indicated in the past is what good resellers should be looking for is what is your support structure? How is the resellers looking at you, developer, and saying, how are you going to support my team? Do you have in place things that are going to help support me? And that's across the board. Do you have help on my sales team? Is when my sales rep is in an opportunity, is there somebody on you developer side that's going to be able to help our person jump on a phone call, whatever it is that needs to happen? Do you have engineering help that's going to help out, that's going to sync with the guy that I have or the gal that I have on my team that's in charge with making sure this solution is well engineered and everything's going to work out? Or is that a vacuum? I mean, this is the type of things that the companies need to mesh up on, and you got to make sure there's a good fit across all those boards, because, or at least as best as you can. No marriage is perfect. No partnership is going to be perfect. Right. But if you can do a little due diligence on that side, introduce the people that are going to be working together, I think it's going to have a lot better long-term effect.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, Dean, anything else about these tips that we maybe haven't touched on that you would add in before we go on to our recurring segments?
No. I mean, it's interesting though when you think about the channel partner play and coming up with a basic checklist. It's smart. It's smart to just do a little bit of due diligence on the side of what are we looking to get out of this partnership. Again, it could be a reseller, could be a software development company. You need to have that basic checklist of what you're trying to do, because remember the reason why you're going into a partnership to begin with. You are trying to expand. If you're a reseller, you're probably trying to expand your ecosystem so that you have more solutions that you can offer to your existing customer base. Those are the short putts. If you're a software development company, you're looking for partners who can play, who can help you expand. So come up with a short a checklist, like, are they suited for the role? Are they capable of expanding your reach? Do they have industry expertise? Are they successful in doing it? These are some basic things, but they lead to some other questions that you should be asking along the way.
And and let me be honest, if there's any of these 5 questions that are a hard no, then you probably don't have a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably time to step away, because these are all pretty basic things that any partner should at least check off all of these. And then I'm sure you have a bunch of subcategories, that you want to check off as well. But if any of these top level categories you're saying, no, I don't think so, that should be your warning sign right there. It's time to step back.
And on that, it's okay to say no sometimes.
Yeah,
if you're a software developer, you've got your list, you're having a conversation with a reseller, it's okay to walk away from that and say, you know what? I don't think this is going to work out.
Because in the end, both of you will appreciate that.
Oh, 100%.
Because if you get in bed with somebody that you just don't actually have that kind of chemistry and connection with and relationship with, you're going to find out eventually, and things are just going to turn sour.
In the worst way.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, as I mentioned, this is a piece of our new TEConnect Today newsletter. Again, if you have not already signed up for BlueStar newsletters, I highly recommend you do so. You will get articles like this and so much more in each issue. I will put a link in the show notes where you can actually go and subscribe. But I highly recommend it. You'll get cool content like this. We may from time to time pull these articles and talk about them on the show in a little more depth as well. But in the meantime, before we shift over to our recurring segments, I do want to, as always, thank our founding sponsors, Elo, Epson, Honeywell, and Zebra. We could not do the show without you. We very much appreciate your support. As always, if you like what you've seen here, you like the show, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It is one great way to let us know that you like us and help expand our reach a little bit. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, leave a comment.
There you go.
It's pretty simple and easy to do. Again, I see those. I'm the guy who pays attention to what's happening on YouTube every week as these podcasts are out there.
I heard a rumor that you're paying people ice cream cones for just liking us and subscribing.
Well, maybe. I mean, so hit that like button. You might get an ice cream cone. I have no idea how I get it to you. It might be melted, but we'll see. Supply chains in the frozen world is
there you go.
Cold. The cold storage supply chain is fantastic these days. Push some vaccines aside, and I'll send you some ice cream cones. I'm sure that'll go over well.
Yeah, that'll go over well.
Also, as always, if you want to talk to us, have any thoughts about the show, you can follow us and talk to us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. I always try to post fun little articles and stuff there related to our shows each week. You can also reach out to us by email. That is TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap up with our recurring segments as we always do. First, our value to the VAR. So this question is, I want to talk specifically to the VARs. Obviously, that's always what this talking point is about.
Yeah.
So, a lot of what we've talked about is thinking about, in a sense of how the software companies should approach, a relationship with their VARs. And, but also at the same time, I feel like, hey, a lot of what we've said can go the opposite direction as well. And for VARs also, this isn't just about hardware and software companies. It could be your relationship with a customer. It could be, an end customer that you want to develop a long-term relationship with. It could be a vendor. If you remember last year, we had an episode about the vendor reseller relationship with Brett Van Riper.
Yes.
And we talked all about this idea of, marrying a vendor sometimes. And maybe that means that you are pretty exclusive with their particular product, and commit yourselves to being experts on one vendor's product. Yeah. So when we think about that, the question I have for our audience that is, or to talk to them is, how should VARs self-evaluate themselves to make sure that they are being a good channel partner? Which of these tips really is relevant for them?
Well, and so what I'll key on here is, and maybe we haven't talked about it, but what I would put at the top, if you're doing a self-evaluation, are you serious? Are you serious about what you're looking to get into? And I mean that seriously, because there is an investment that's going to have to happen. Whether it's you're venturing into a slightly new area with your business, you've got your core, which is my second bullet point. When you self-evaluate, you got to know what your core is, and you have to be able to better than just your elevator pitch that your sales team's used to doing when they're facing potential customers and end users and stuff like that. What is at your core? What strategically is at your core, and how are you looking to expand about that on that? And then, are you serious? Do you understand the ramifications of whatever partnership that you're starting to develop with a software company? Because that can mean that you need to dump resources into it. That's just the bottom line. People are going to have to spend time understanding the software. They're going to have to spend time getting into that world. They're going to have to spend time. Time is money. So are you serious? Don't do it if you think you're going to just half-ass it, or you think that, I was at a bar, or I was at an event, or when we start doing events again, I was in events talking to somebody, and this sounds like a really good place that we should take our company into. Right. Seriously? I mean, you got to have.
They wrote down their number on the napkin for me, the cocktail napkin. We're good.
I mean, self-evaluation to me is: are you serious? Are you serious about where you want to go? Does it meet your goals? You gotta step away. I mean, we literally used to go off-site. I know that, some companies don't do that, but you got to get out of your environment. Understand what you're doing, and then are you serious? Are you seriously going to go after that? Again, I'll just harken back to the company I was with when we made the play into digital signage. We literally left and said, are we going to get serious about this? Because getting serious means this. We got to have a resource behind it. We're going to have to do these types of things. We're going to have to market it, right? The old marketing thing. You can't just, all of a sudden now, our engineering team.
They don't come to you.
Bingo. You got to go out and find that kind of business and stuff like that. So again, when I do when I think about self-evaluating, are you serious?
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head there. The idea of being serious, it makes me think of this idea that you have to approach all of this as, look, we know who we are, we know who we want to be, and are you willing to make that commitment to take it to the next level? Mm-hmm. Yes, it is possible to be a reseller and to just be that, to just be someone who gets hardware. And if someone comes and says, I need a mobile computer, I need a scanner, I need a POS system, fine, I've got what you got. Let's ring you up. Give me your PO, give me your credit card. We're done. End of transaction.
I think that's fading, but go ahead.
It is. It should. Well, that's just it. I think it should be.
Right.
You can still exist that way. I don't know for how much longer you can continue to exist that way. Because yes, I think we are getting into a world where there's expectations. People expect hey, a piece of hardware needs to have some great software with it. I expect to be able to do cool stuff with it, and I expect to get all of that from one place if possible. I don't want to have to, I mean, let's be honest, you don't buy an iPhone and have to go and load every single app on it yourself. There's some apps you're going to have to add to it, some of your favorite stuff.
Yep.
And even that, most phone companies made it even simple these days to just, hey, what were you using on the last one? Guess what? You can port it right over to your new one. You don't have to go and do all that heavy work yourself. There's expectations. You don't buy a new television expecting to have to find every single possible app or channel or whatever and load it to it. It should be pretty easy for you to hey, I just logged in. Here are the 5 apps that are the streaming services I use. I just got to log into them and I'm ready to go. It should be simplified.
Yeah.
That is, I think, where things are going in this channel. I think there's an expectation that when you work with a reseller, you get a full package. There's a reason why we talk about
100%.
solution selling so much.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the TEConnect program exists.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why we are spending so much time connecting with software companies, learning who they are, learning what they offer, building our little ecosystem so that when our partners come to us and say, hey, I'm trying to put together a solution for XYZ, who do you got we can work with? And we have someone we can, position for them quickly and easily and connect them with.
100%.
There's a reason all this exists. There's a reason why companies like us are doing what we're doing. This is what we're talking about. So yes, you have to be serious about this. And part of that being serious means taking some time, step back, evaluate who you are, look at those 5 tips yourself. Do you check off every single one of those?
Yep.
If someone is approaching
Are you a good channel partner?
Yeah, exactly. If someone's approaching you and wants to know if you're a partner, a good partner, are you fitting all of those? Do you have answers to all those? If they asked you any of those questions, do you have a quick, concise, solid, good answer that they're going to appreciate and help them decide if they want to actually partner?
I really like the way you teed it up because you're absolutely right. If you're a reseller out there today who has gotten by just, doing what you've been doing for the last decade, 2 decades, whatever, dude, the world is changing and you need to understand that solution selling and what your tech stack looks like into the future is totally relevant, more relevant today than ever. So if you're not self-evaluating, taking a step back and asking the question, am I a good channel partner? Do I fit to enable myself so that this business is going to be successful 5-10 years down the road, where I need a tech stack? And what I mean by that are a stack of solutions that are available to your customers that you can walk in and be that solution provider, not just the POS guy.
Yep.
You need to be more than just the POS guy. You need a tech stack that you can walk in there and say, oh yeah, I can help you in these ways and this ways and expand your business that way. That's what resellers in the future are going to look like. And in order to do that, you have to be a good channel partner.
Yeah. For some reason it popped into my head, and I don't know if this is a local thing to our Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati tri-state area, but do you remember those radio ads for a while back where people trying to call maybe a tire company or an auto parts company, and it was like, if we ain't got it, you don't need it.
I love that one. Yeah.
I do
I'm
feel
looking
like
for a blower for a 57 Chevy.
Yeah, we ain't got it. Yeah, hold on. We ain't got that. Well, I need it. Well, we ain't got it. You don't need it. That is not a smart model.
That is not a smart
I mean, it
model.
wasn't then, obviously. That was the whole gag behind that, commercial.
But
this
now
is not
more
smart.
than ever.
More than ever. You can't pretend like you're someone now, it's understandable. Yes, you can have your niche, you can have your vertical, you can have your focus. And ideally, someone knows that before they get in touch with you.
Right.
But you also can't go in saying well, that's not us. I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. Because if you do, you're potentially turning off a whole swath of people that are going to go well, hey, this guy over here, it may not be exactly what they're into, but they know people that they can work with to make this happen for me, and they're willing to go that extra mile.
Yeah.
They don't got it, but they know I need it, and they're going to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Maybe if I can find that ad somewhere, I'll link that.
I love that one.
It was one of those things if you, back in the days when you listened to the radio,
I still do.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well,
although I love that commercial. It is a classic. It
is indeed. All right. Well, let's wrap up with our favorite segment of this week and every week. What is Tech Connecting with You? This is where we talk about, a piece of software, technology, a gadget, something in the world of technology, science, innovation that's caught our eye. Dean, what is Tech Connecting with You this week?
It's not Tech Connecting with me. It's freaking me out a little bit here.
I feel like a lot of ours turned into freakouts in some way.
So here's the headline from a article I was reading on The Verge.
Okay.
New AI deep nostalgia brings old photos, including very old ones, to life. So you kind of have to see it to believe it. But the whole thing here is that you take an old photo. Think of an old black and white photo,
right.
Whatever black and white photo.
Okay.
What this AI will do is deepfake, basically. It turns it into a short video where that person's like turning their head and smiling at
I
you.
think I saw something about
giving
this.
some expression. So it's like if you've got a picture of your grandfather or your great grandfather.
Yep.
I'll go back to like whatever you, I don't know, a photo of a Civil War soldier or something like that, and you put it into this system. They'll actually the face will start to animate,
Right.
And it's like, whoa, I don't know.
Did
That's getting a
they
little
do this with
weird.
Frederick Douglass? Was that one of the examples?
I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't them, but I saw something recently where somebody posted, I think, on Twitter, like just a short clip of this is what Frederick Douglass would have actually looked like live and in motion.
Right. Okay.
Because he was one of the most photographed people of the late, 19th century, I guess,
Yes,
whatever, as
right.
photography was taking off. He was someone who got photographed quite a lot.
Gotcha.
He made himself very available for photography. So someone managed to take, a collection of his photos and use them to figure out like what he would look like
I'll be
three-dimensional
darned.
and animated as if he was on video.
Isn't that, I don't know.
It's
That's just
fascinating.
weird. So where this is being utilized is like, I guess there's sites out there like MyHeritage and in these ones where, what's the other, Ancestry?
Right.
I don't know if Ancestry uses it, but
23andMe, DNA stuff, yeah.
So it's like, and you load up things about your past, right? Your family.
Right,
so
right.
you're loading up pictures of grandpa and
Right.
grandma and whatever. And then there's this little part of that site where you can animate them. And so now they're kind of coming to life, and it's kind of weird to look at because I can just imagine, I've got whatever pictures of my grandfather, and that's it. It's a picture of my grandfather, and I've preconceived my I knew him, but to see him animated now or that photo animated would really be kind of creepy. I don't know.
Next level is going to be like holograms or something where you can interact with them and talk to them and walk around them and stuff.
Yeah, I guess that is the next level. Yeah, taking it all to the next level. So anyway, that might be one experience of AI and deep. Well, they called it deep nostalgia. I don't know. Kind of crazy.
Deep nostalgia.
So what's that connecting with you?
So, Dean, you and I are both parents. Your children are obviously older than my son is now. But my son, in the past 6-8 months or so, got out of the crib phase finally.
Yep.
It was one of those things where like he probably would have stayed in it as long as we wanted him to. He didn't seem to really care. He never tried to climb out or anything. They always told you like, hey, when the kid starts climbing out, it's time.
Eventually,
to
they grow out of it. By the way.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have.
You physically can't stuff
and
yourself.
he's
in
a tall child. He's going to be tall. He's probably going to be even taller than I am. So I expected that. So we switched him over to the toddler bed. But anyway, I came across an article about a company called Cradlewise, who has basically made a smart crib, for lack of a better term. So this is a crib that uses AI and a built-in monitor to help your little one stay snoozing for as long as possible.
What?
It's a nice, sleekly designed bassinet, white and light color wood. It features an arch over the crib. It has a monitor and a camera. So basically, and it can switch from a bassinet to a crib as they get older. So essentially, it recognizes if your child's stirring at night, motion sensors and a camera notice, and starts like rocking or bumping or moving the cradle a little bit to rock them back to sleep. You can even like set it up with parameters for like their normal wake up and sleep times. So like if they're waking up at a time they're supposed to be normally waking up, it won't do anything. It'll let it happen. But if it's middle of the night or something, it'll keep them, at ease and sleeping for a little bit longer. You've got a camera that, if you need to check on them, you can with an app. You can control the settings with an app. It's even got like a sensor on it where like if you're going in and, the thing's moving and you want to actually pick up your kid or something, you can just put your hand over the sensor and stop it from moving. But a smart, intelligent crib. Now, I will say we were very lucky with our son that he's always been a good sleeper. But we also, for a while, like for, his first several months before he transitioned to the crib, we used the Fisher-Price Rock and Play, which has actually been discontinued since. There apparently were some issues with
launching the kids.
Well, there was problems like with kids rolling over, I guess, potentially in it, and some harm happened to children. But it was a wonderful thing for us because it was very much the first thing. He was quite happy to just sleep for hours in and not wake up very often. So it was a great thing for us. But this is definitely the kind of thing, like if that hadn't been available, I would have loved to have had something like this.
I don't know, man. There's a part of me that's like, oh, this is cool. This is really going to help parents balance out.
Yep.
Parents are going to be able to sleep a little bit better now, but there's a part of me that also gets very worried about these technologies. Like, how much more of a remote parent do you want to be there? You're not even, I mean, some of the joys of life, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but if you're going to have kids, some of the joys in life is the high highs and the low lows.
That's true.
And the low lows are
Yeah.
the middle of the night crying and you got to rock your child to sleep. I mean, yeah, I've had some of my best ideas in the depths of non-sleep.
Well, there's some great bonding that happens there, too.
Great bonding.
There are nights when
if I got a little machine over here doing that,
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
there were nights at 2 a.m. where, I was half asleep, but I would, still very strongly embedded in my memory and my heart is, sitting there with my son, rocking with him as he's falling asleep again. That's the kind of stuff you can never quite get back. And I'm guessing this maybe doesn't entirely replace that, but
I don't know. It sounds like it. They got all these monitor sensors.
I don't know.
Beep,
Next thing it'll just be a
Baby's
robot.
moving.
You just send your robo nanny or whatever to go rock him.
That's what I fear. Anyway, I don't know if we'll get there or not.
So that's what's TEConnecting with us. Thank you, as always, for listening. It is time for us to unplug. We'll be back again with probably some more of these type of articles in the future.
Absolutely.
But we'll be back next week with a regular guest. I promise it's not going to be just Dean and I, but I think we had a great conversation here. So
look for the magazine, though, and the
that's
newsletter.
Right, definitely.
It's good.
Look for the newsletter. Check the show notes. You will find a link there to subscribe. So until next time, stay connected.